Second one is called a consultative style. This is where you would say, hey, I want everybody's input, but I make the final call.
Mm-hmm.
Third one is called consensus based, which is almost like a unanimous, like a jury. Hey, we don't move forward until everybody agrees. Fourth is delegative style, which is pretty self-explanatory. Hey, I trust your judgment. You make the call. And the fifth one is intuitive, which is you saying, hey, from my experience, my background, my expertise, everything I've seen, this just feels right. Like I know what the data's saying, I know, but I always liken this to a coach going forward on fourth down. It's like the analytics say we should punt here, or analytics say we should kick the field goal, but coach is like, no, I got a feeling, I got a idea of the flow of the game, like we need to go for it here. All right, done with my coaching calls for today. The two themes that I was emphasizing today in the calls, the first one was around decision making. There's typically 5 decision-making styles that leaders operate from, or that they make decisions from. And so the goal of that module is to elicit the decision-making style of the leader that I'm working with, talk about the pros and cons of that style, when it's effective to deploy it, when it might be effective to deploy a different style. And it's definitely not to try to change their style or tell them that they need to operate differently. But I want them to be aware of when might be best to use a certain style, when it might be best to use something different. So really all we're doing is sharpening the style that they already use, trying to make them more efficient and be a little bit more precise with that style. The second theme that I talked about today is around coaching. This is the idea of the leader coach. 10, 15, maybe 20 years ago, coaching was a part of what you did when you were in a leadership position. I think now in 2026 and beyond, we've evolved to a point where leadership is coaching. It's not a part of leadership coaching, but leadership is coaching. In other words, if you're in a leadership position, the best use of your time is to be coaching your people, pouring into your people, building that trust, respect, influence, caring, and listening with your people. Ultimately, people want to be coached, especially in today's work environment. People want to grow. They want to learn. They want their leadership to pour into them and help them become better versions of themselves. And so that's what I stress to the leaders that I work with, that you have to shift the mindset from coaching being a part of what I'm doing in leadership to coaching being what I am doing. Leadership is coaching. And I have found that while a lot of leaders, obviously they're held responsible to numbers and deadlines and budgets, etc. And so they push to hit those budgets and those numbers. If we instead make the focus on coaching our people and pouring into our people, they'll hit those numbers and hit those budgets, and they'll perform for you as a byproduct of you coaching them and pouring into them and trying to help them grow. And so a lot more nuance to that, more than I can explain here in a short clip, but those are the two themes of the calls today. So for me today, it's Wednesday, so I got to get over to the gym. Today is cardio, active rest, and recovery. So I'm still a little bit sore from my leg day on Monday, so I'm just going to jog on the treadmill, probably try to get a 2-mile jog in, then hit some abs, and then I'm going to get a sauna session in over there. After that, I'm headed over to the village. It's a beautiful day out today, and so going to head over to the village, take my computer, get a little bit of work done. And I've got another important topic that I want to talk about with you today that relates to this idea of building the 7-figure business, building a life that we love. As you guys know, in my journey to build this 7-figure coaching business, one of the things I refuse to do is sacrifice my current quality of life. Maybe that means I won't ever get there, but I refuse to compromise on that. I'm not going to blow up the beautiful life that I have or disturb my peace going for a goal that probably won't make me any happier anyway. So with that being said, we'll get the workout in, we'll get over to the village, and we'll have this little conversation.
heard this quote the other day that I was kind of shocked to learn is attributed to Shakespeare, and the quote is, "Nothing is either good or bad, but thinking makes it so." And it reminded me of this old Neville Goddard idea that everything always works out in my favor. What makes that quote true, that everything always works out in your favor, is how you choose to perceive things that are happening in your life. You can either perceive it as things happen to you or things happen for you. So whatever happens, whether you get the job or you don't get the job, it worked out for you, it happened for you. There's something better coming. Whether the relationship works or doesn't work, it happened for you. And when you adopt that perspective, I think it makes it impossible to see things as a negative. I mean, sure, there are some things that are objectively bad things that can happen, right? But for the most part, for most of us in our daily life, the things that happen that we perceive to be bad or catastrophic, we're perceiving them that way because that's, again, how we're interpreting what happened. Something happens and we automatically assign a label to it that it was bad or catastrophic or it's the worst thing that ever happened. And because we think that, it becomes that. So I think if we can really try to adopt that mindset that everything always works out in our favor and that nothing is good or bad until we assign meaning to it and decide that we're going to assign a positive meaning to everything that happens to us, if we can make that decision and actively do that, you're going to start to see a beautiful life, a beautiful world, a life that you love, and you're going to be able to build a life that you love through that perspective and through that lens.